Okay, welcome back. We're on page 188, talking about some techniques you can use for getting requirements. We talked about the focus group, and focus group is typically kind of sort of designed for customers. I mean, it doesn't have to be done for customers. You can use focus groups for, your own folks, but think in mind of asking your customers in and asking them some questions. Okay. Observations. Now, there is a good technique is for direct observation. In other words, how long does it take to fill out this goofy form? And somebody will say, wow, I don't know, it just takes me, 15 seconds. And then you go, really? Okay. So you might really want to just watch, see how long it really takes. Because maybe it takes a lot longer than that, and they're just kind of bullshitting you. Now, there is some problems with direct observation, and that is there's observation bias. Because they know you're watching, they're probably going to do things a lot more efficiently than they would if you're not watching. And you really don't want to be spying on your employees, right? You really don't want to be, hiding in the bushes with a clipboard and binoculars, seeing how long it takes them to do something, right? So direct observation is typically okay, but you have to kind of temper it with, okay, it took them 5 minutes to do this task, but that's because I was watching. Maybe if I wasn't watching, it's going to take them 7-8 minutes to do that task. Okay, just telling you, this is real life. And then the last one is prototyping. And prototyping sounds like a strange way of doing requirements, but there'll be scenarios where you get to a place where you absolutely cannot talk to the people in any meaningful way. There's too much of a gap between the knowledge of the people asking the question and answering the question. Let me give you an example. Now, I've actually told this story many times, so some of you guys have already heard it. But here's how the story goes. Okay, so 10 million years ago, I'm working for an organization, and they have a finance system where employees charge their time against accounts. Okay, so if I spent 4 hours against this particular project, the 4 hours got applied to like an accounting code. Okay. And so we're now switching over to a new enterprise resource planning tool, an ERP. And for reasons that no one really understands, they decided to just do a direct cutover. In other words, this old system goes down on Monday. It's Sunday at midnight, and wake up the next morning on Monday, and the new system is in place. There's no overlap whatsoever. Okay. So our finance people were really freaking out. They're going, man, we have, this direct cutoff. We don't have any degree of certainty if this thing is going to work at all. So they came to me and said, could you at least just grab the time card data coming into the new system and just print out the time card system so we can just kind of go through it and so we can kind of look at it and see if everything is all right. I said, okay, so let me get this straight. What you want is basically just the raw time input into the system. Yeah, so all we need is the guy's name and what his billable rate is and what account he's charging his time to and the amount of hours. So it was like 4 or 5 fields. I went, okay, cool. So I did. Handed it to them. They said, this is great. This is exactly what we wanted. I was like, cool. All right. So a couple days later, I come by the budget people, and he's got like a drafting table set up in this long gargantuan printout. And he's got like 5 or 6 different colors of highlighters, and he's going whoosh, whoosh, in different colors. I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I need this thing organized by those accounting codes. I went, well, why didn't you ask me? And he goes, well, I didn't know you could do that. So I said, well, let me fix that. So I fixed the application so it grouped them by account codes. So I said, is this what you want? He goes, yeah. I said, do you want anything else? Nope, this is exactly what I want. Good. Come back next couple of days. He's looking over the thing going, adding machine. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I need to add up this column. I said, well, why didn't you say so? Well, I didn't know it could do that. And so we went through like 4 or 5 revisions of this. And the moral of the story is these people could not articulate the requirements. The gap was just too big. They could not do it. The only way I could pull, requirements out of them is to show them a prototype and say, is this what you want? And even then, when they said yes, I still had to ignore the yes and come back and watch them Because the yes was not the correct answer. No, it wasn't what they wanted. They wanted more. They just didn't know how to ask for it. So prototyping is a fantastic technique. Well, let me rephrase that. Prototyping by itself is a lousy technique, but prototyping and then interviewing people. So it's like a combination of all these things where I'm doing direct observation and interviewing and prototyping all together. Because let me tell you, there are some organizations and some people that cannot articulate their requirements. It just absolutely, it's a bridge too far. It cannot happen. And you need to be there and help. Okay, enough of my war stories. We need to pick up. So, prototyping solves the problem where somebody says, I don't know what I like, I don't know what I want, but I'll let you know when I see it. Yeah. All right. So there's a cool little thing there in the book. It talks about studies have shown that most projects nowadays are not really completely new projects. Most of the time, they're like enhancements to existing systems, or maybe you're just replacing System A with System B. You know, most of the automation in modern businesses basically already done, you know, most of the time. And so you're just doing enhancements. That's good to know, because this is going to provide you a lot of detailed information of whatever the requirements were for the old system. Now you're just talking about a delta between what the old system did and the new system did. You don't have to necessarily list all the ones that the old one did, because that'd be fairly common knowledge. The other one talks about customer satisfaction and involvement. A lot of people say that, customers determine the requirements. Again, if you're not asking your customer what they want, well, then you're not in that ballpark. Good companies are asking their customers, okay, I'm getting ready to produce a new car. And what is it you want? Well, do you want, low gas mileage? You want high performance? You want, gazillion seatings? You want a, mommy mobile? You want a race car? What do you want? And so finding out what they want is very, very important. Otherwise, you'll produce products that they don't want. And then, of course, the whole idea of, getting all the requirements up front is kind of sort of important. This little study basically said that almost, 70-something% of the projects they worked on, the project had about 100 different requirements. Some had over 1,000 individual requirements. Yikes. Okay, so projects can be pretty doggone big. Okay, so moving along on page 191, they talk about defining the scope. So basically we're talking about the scope definition or the project scope statement. And they kind of sort of could be, you could have one that serves both purposes. But, so the scope definition. They basically talk about different tools that you can use for producing the scope. And a lot of it is like how much experience you have with it. So the first one on their list is expert judgment. Okay, that's how you're going to be producing your scope. Product analysis. Particularly if you've got like an old product that you're replacing, then you just analyze the product and you know a lot, right? Alternative analysis is pretty cool. For example, let's say that I'm building a toaster. And so what I do is I go like to, Amazon and look at all the toasters that are available and go, wow, almost all of them have this feature. And you go, dang, we don't have that. Let's add that feature, right? Okay, requirements based upon not your necessarily needs, but by looking at alternatives. Cool. And then, of course, the other one is facilitated workshops, where you gather people together and you bang on what the requirements are until you get it all squared away. So the project scope statement, there's an example here. And the project scope statement, I like the way this example is done, because it talks about at version 1, when you don't really know anything, if additional servers are required, they must be compatible with the existing. It's more economical to enhance the existing servers, a detailed description, blah, 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 see current server specifications. And then version 2, the project will require purchasing 10 new servers to support blah, blah, blah. Now, this is good, because the original scope was, I don't know. We're going to need some servers, but maybe we'll just retrofit the ones we already got. And then later on you go, no. We really need 10 new servers to be able to pull this off. And you wouldn't know that until you really got a little further. So project scope statement is a way of saying, documenting that we thought this and that, but it turns out no, the boundaries have moved. The boundaries of this project have popped out a little bit because of this thing that we found out. You need to document this stuff. You can't just have a single scope and then say, okay, we're done. All right. Creating the WBSs on page 194. So, this is all about the process of decomposing. In other words, you have a giant thing you want done, and then you have to be able to break it up into individual pieces. And there is some art and science to how you break those things up. Okay, and so we're going to talk about the kind of sort of techniques. There's basically 3 choices that the book talks about. One of them is by product. In other words, by deliverable. Here's what I want this to happen. I want this deliverable. So you just list the deliverables, and then the rest of the project just kind of feeds into providing the deliverable. That's one way. The other is by phase. Okay, phase 1 of the project is going to do this, and phase 2 we're going to do that, and phase 3. That makes kind of sense. And the other one is by those process control groups. Where you're initiating and executing, and the process control groups. We've been talking about those forever. Okay, so this first figure on page 195 is the one organized by product. So this is their WBSs, so to speak, organized by product. So here's what we want. We want an internet. Okay, that's the big thing. But I'm going to need a site design, and I'm going to need a home page. I'm going to need marketing pages and sales pages. So these are the things I want. I'm interested in the sales pages and the marketing pages. And so these things, it's about deliverables. I want to deliver this, and this. Okay? That is a perfectly acceptable way of doing a WBS if you wanted to do it that way. The only problem here is the levels are not all that clear. In other words, what's a level 1 WBS? Well, I guess it would be the internet. Intranet. I say it so poorly you can't tell what I'm talking about. Intranet. And what's level 2? I guess that's like level 2 there, and these are level 3 tasks. But when you look at the level 3 tasks, those are not really tasks, right? Not really. I mean, text. Text is not a task. Okay. So this is okay, and it works for lots of people, but there's some other alternatives. The next one talks about organizing by phase. And so here's how they did it. So now they're being a little bit more sophisticated than, level 1 is the intranet project. Then level 2 is some sort of a concept, and then a web design, and then the rollout and support. And then level 3 is, this is all under concept. Evaluating the requirements, and all. Then level 4 is, so this is their little numbering scheme for that. So we're working on this concept thing at level 2. And so evaluating the current system, defining the requirements. So this is a good way of doing it. I kind of sort of like this way. This is kind of what I tend to do when I do projects. I don't necessarily use process control groups because most of the time my projects don't fit that. This is more along the lines of how I would do things. This is basically by phase. And isn't it fairly clear now what the levels of these WBSs are? In other words, if I roll up all the cost between all these level 4 things and all these level 3 things, they clearly are going to roll up into this concept piece, right? Let's go back to that. If I roll up all the costs associated with doing programs, hyperlinks, is that going to roll up into anything? I don't know. Kind of weird, huh? Okay. So here they introduce a new term, basically called a work package, which is a low-level WBS. And this level of WBS is really like the lowest level that gets assigned in like in a Gantt chart kind of a scenario. And it's designed for accountability. And we'll describe what that means a little bit more after the break.